My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. I am blessed as a son of God. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation and yours. I and you are blessed as a son of God. I am blessed as a son of God. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Lesson 58 in A Course in Miracles workbook for students. We're reading from the original, or not from the original edition, from the Foundation for Inner Peace version here on Monday, February the 27th of 2024. And before we read our lesson in its entirety, let's go take a look at our text reading for today, which is in chapter 7, The Gifts of the Kingdom. And we're ready for the unbelievable belief, Roman numeral 8. We've said that with, and I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks. If you're new to joining me, thank you. Pull up a seat and let's study. We have said that without projection there can be no anger, but it is also true that without extension there can be no love. These reflect a fundamental law of the mind, and therefore one that always operates. It is the law by which you create and were created. It is the law that unifies the kingdom and keeps it in the mind of God. To the ego, the law is perceived as a means of getting rid of something it does not want. To the Holy Spirit, it is the fundamental law of sharing, by which you give what you value in order to keep it in your mind. Are you starting to get the picture that you can't really get rid of anything, that we can only share it with each other because there's only one mind? You can't hide anything. There's no secrets in this one mind. There's not a sufficiently distinct mind separate from your mind that could be separated from what you're feeling, thinking, doing, acting. What's in your mind is in all minds. To the Holy Spirit, it is the law of extension. To the ego, it is the law of deprivation. It therefore produces abundance or scarcity, depending on how you choose to apply this law. This choice is up to you, but it is not up to you to decide whether or not you will utilize the law. Every mind must project or extend, because that is how it lives, and every mind is life. Project or extend. Paragraph 2. The ego's use of projection must be fully understood before the inevitable association between projection and anger can be finally undone. The ego always tries to preserve conflict. It is very ingenious in devising ways that seem to diminish conflict because it does not want you to find conflict so intolerable that you will insist on giving it up. The ego, therefore, tries to persuade you that it can free you of conflict, lest you give the ego up and free yourself. Using its own warped version of the laws of God, the ego utilizes the power of the mind only to defeat the mind's real purpose. It projects conflict from your mind to other minds in an attempt to persuade you that you have gotten rid of the problem. Set my guitar over here out of the sunshine. Ready for paragraph 3. My wind blew my page. Let me find where we're at again here. Paragraph 3, there are 2 major errors involved in this attempt to get rid of the problem. First, strictly speaking, conflict cannot be projected because it cannot be shared. Any attempt to keep part of it and get rid of another part does not really mean anything because there's just one mind here. There's nowhere to get rid of it at. Only in illusions. Any attempt to keep part of it and get rid of another part does not really mean anything. Remember that a conflicted teacher is a poor teacher and a poor learner. His lessons are confused, and their transfer value is limited by his confusion. The second error is the idea that you can get rid of something you do not want by giving it away. Giving it is how you keep it. The belief that by seeing it outside, you have excluded it from within is a complete distortion of the power of extension. That is why those who project are vigilant for their own safety. They are afraid that their projections will return and hurt them. So if you project, trying to get rid of what you don't like, blame it on somebody else's projection, basically. You haven't really done anything, and you're worried that it might return. So look what you do. Look what you go through if you start with this start at this starting point. That is why those who project are vigilant for their own safety. They are afraid that their projections will return and hurt them. Believing they have blotted their projections from their own minds, they also believe their projections are trying to creep back in. Since the projections have not left their minds, they are forced to engage in constant activity in order not to recognize this. Keep the mind busy on all kinds of non-essentials so that it doesn't think about what you really did and what you can do. Give up the ego. Let go and let God. Paragraph 4. You cannot perpetuate an illusion about another without perpetuating it about yourself. There is no way out of this, because it is impossible to fragment the mind. To fragment is to break into pieces, and mind cannot attack or be attacked. It's one. It's one being, interconnected with everything. That's the Holy Spirit. The belief that it can be attacked or attack, an error the ego always makes, underlies its whole use of projection. It does not understand what mind is and therefore does not understand what you are. Yet its existence is dependent on your mind because the ego is your belief. Now there you go. There's the definition of the ego. It's your belief. And he's trying to get us to look at our beliefs at a level that's much deeper than what we generally consider. Oh, the power of the mind. The ego is a confusion in identification. Never having had a consistent model, it never developed consistently. It is the product of the misapplication of the laws of God by distorted minds that are misusing their power. 5. Do not be afraid of the ego. It depends on your mind. And as you made it by believing in it, so you can dispel it by withdrawing your belief in it or belief from it. Do not project the responsibility of your belief in it onto anyone else, or you will preserve the belief. When you are willing to accept sole responsibility for the ego's existence. You will have laid aside all anger and all attack, because they come from an attempt to project responsibility for your own errors. You saw something you didn't like, you tried to blame it on somebody else, say that it wasn't your problem, but you're the one that interpreted it as a problem. So that was the ego's doing, and you can let go of that belief, is what he's saying. But having accepted the errors as yours, do not keep them. Give them over quickly to the Holy Spirit to be undone completely, so that all their effects will vanish from your mind and from the sonship as a whole. 6. The Holy Spirit will teach you to perceive beyond your belief, because truth is beyond belief, and His perception is true. The ego can be completely forgotten at any time, because it is a totally incredible belief, and no one can keep a belief he has judged to be unbelievable. The more you learn about the ego, the more you realize that it cannot be believed. The incredible cannot be understood because it is unbelievable. The meaningless, and the word incredible, without credence, without any believability, without any logic, without any reality. The incredible cannot be understood because it is unbelievable. Don't try to figure out the meanderings of the ego, because it's based on insanity. The very fact that it exists is an idea that you can be separated from your source. So don't pay it any attention. Just let it go. Don't put any belief in it. The incredible cannot be understood because it is unbelievable. The meaninglessness of perception based on the unbelievable is apparent, but it may not be recognized as being beyond belief because it was made by belief. And the last paragraph finishes section 7. The whole purpose of this course is to teach you that the ego is unbelievable and will forever be unbelievable. Okay, now you've got the purpose of the course. The whole purpose of this course is to teach you that the ego is unbelievable and will forever be unbelievable. You who made the ego by believing the unbelievable cannot make this judgment alone. By accepting the atonement for yourself, you are deciding against the belief that you can be alone, thus dispelling the idea of separation and affirming your true identification with the whole kingdom as literally part of you. Let's read that again. By accepting the atonement for yourself, you are deciding against the belief that you can be alone, thus dispelling the idea of separation and affirming your true identification with the whole kingdom as literally part of you. This identification is as beyond doubt as it is beyond belief. Your wholeness has no limits because being is infinity. Your wholeness has no limits because being is infinity. Boy, that sure does go with our lesson today. My holiness envelops everything I see. Think of it as your sacred wholeness. Maybe that's a good word for holiness. Your sacred wholeness, that purity that's interconnected, that godliness that's in everything and everyone and everywhere. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my sacred wholeness cannot do. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My sacred holiness is my salvation, or my sacred wholeness. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. Wow, that oneness. The blessing of oneness or wholeness, holiness as he calls it. Okay, let's see. Out of holidaysandobservances.com. Of course, we're still going through Lent right now, up until Easter. Anosmia Awareness Day, and anosmia is the loss of smell. International Polar Bear Day. The Ursus maritimus, water mammal, a very large one. They get up to 1,700 pounds and bigger, 8 to 10 feet long. Polar bears. Of course, we need to be aware that they're having their trials with finding food with so much of the ice melting. National Kahlua Day. Kahlua is a Mexican coffee liqueur. National Protein Day. And for you people that are thinking about eating less meat or no meat like me, or very little, I guess I should say, remember that you don't need to have meat to get protein. Hemp seed has a complete protein, all the essential amino acids. So does soybeans. Let's see, quinoa. There's 3 right there. You can always, and I've heard peas, I think, are a complete protein, but one of the things you can do is that pea is a legume. Any of the legumes eaten with a grain at this, maybe not the same meal even, but, maybe the same day, the body breaks down those proteins and takes the amino acids. It has to have those 8 essential amino acids in order to build a human protein. But not all plant-based proteins have all 8 essential amino acids. But if you'll always eat a legume, which is any bean or pea, a legume family, with a grain, like beans and cornbread, that'd be a legume and a grain. So just keep that in mind, that any kind of a legume and a grain will be a complete protein. And if you use the human body as a guide, and the baby needs the most protein, I would think, it's growing, it's at its place where it's growing fast, and mother's milk should be a good gauge how much protein you need. Well, keep in mind that the human milk is only 2.5 grams of protein per cup. That's very little. I think broccoli has more protein than that. I'm not sure that broccoli is a complete protein, though. That's not what I was trying to communicate. Now, National Retro Day, and that's looking back before to the digital age, and No Brainer Day, and that's basically a day to keep life simple, and World Retrospective Day. What went well, kind of look and kind of make a decision of what went well is, I think, what's the idea of that. Of course, we want to be retrospective and recognize that when we practice forgiveness, it makes us happy. So it's a no-brainer. No-brainer day and World Retrospective Day. Pokemon Day. Pokemon was released from Japan in 1996 on this day. It was the launch day for that. World and USA Spay Day, neutering day. World NGO Day, Non-Government Organization Day. And it's also National Strawberry Day, your frugarias. Let's talk a little more. I told you all of them that were in edible landscaping, but there's lots more strawberries. And so out of our Gurney's catalog, which I'd encourage you to use the Gurney's catalog if you need to get stuff, check with them. Ozark Beauty, one of my favorites, Fragaria cross ananassa. Ozark Beauty sets lots of large, delicious berries with sugar-sweet taste and a temptingly juicy texture. Plenty for processing. Produced over 12,000 quarts per acre in trials, but oh so irresistibly fresh from the garden. Resists leaf spot and leaf scorch. Self-pollinating. Zones 4 through 8. So there you go. Ozark Beauties, strawberries, since it's Strawberry Day. And then in Permaculture for Beginners by Carrie Mitchell, we're in Chapter 3 still, Designing Your Permaculture Garden. And she talks about vertical gardens, for better use of space along fences and along walls, any kind of a something you could grow up against or on, maybe an arched cow panel a lot of people are using these days. But basically you can grow a lot of stuff on that thing. An espalier tree, like apple trees, a lot of people do those. Espalier right up against a wall. You want to be you probably wouldn't want a north wall. You want more sunlight than that. But you just basically prune the tree so that it grows just in that one dimension along the wall. You trim off the branches going out away from the wall. And that's called espalier. Also, things like grapes, grapevines and kiwi vines can grow up fences and the side of buildings or up in trees. And then your cucurbits, like cucumbers, watermelon, pumpkin, and gourds, can grow up to arch walls and whatnot. Anyway, a way to save space. I always like going into someone who's planted like an arbor, and they've got a bunch of gourds or even watermelons and cucumbers hanging down. It always amazes me. Okay, my holiness envelops everything I see is our first of our 5 reviews. Let's read those now. My holiness envelops everything I see. From my holiness does the perception of the real world come. Having forgiven, I no longer see myself as guilty. I can accept the innocence that is the truth about me. Seen through understanding eyes, the holiness of the world is all I see, for I can picture only the thoughts I hold about myself. Paragraph, or the next section, 2. My holiness blesses the world, which is review number 37, here on lesson 58. The perception of my holiness does not bless me alone. Everyone and everything I see in its light shares in the joy it brings to me. There is nothing that is apart from this joy, because there is nothing that does not share my holiness. As I recognize my holiness, so does the holiness of the world shine forth for everyone to see. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Number 3, review 38. My holiness is unlimited in its power to heal because it is unlimited in its power to save. What is there to be saved from except illusions? And what are all illusions except false ideas about myself? My holiness undoes them all by asserting the truth about me. In the presence of my holiness, which I share with God Himself, all idols vanish. My holiness is my salvation. Since my holiness saves me from all guilt, recognizing my holiness is recognizing my salvation. It is also recognizing the salvation of the world. Once I have accepted my holiness, nothing can make me afraid. And because I am unafraid, everyone must share in my understanding, which is the gift of God to me and to the world. And our last one, number 5, which is review of 40, I am blessed as a son of God. Herein lies my claim to all good and only good. I am blessed as a son of God. All good things are mine because God intended them for me. I cannot suffer any loss or deprivation or pain because of who I am. My Father supports me, protects me, and directs me in all things. His care for me is infinite and is with me forever. I am eternally blessed as His son. And let me remind you to be sure to do your at least 7 quiet times for 2 minutes each, reviewing each of the lessons, and then all of them together, morning and evening. And then throughout the day, just think about one of them or all of them every so often. I would encourage you to every hour at least try to keep that breath alive inside you. That it's kind of like breathing is what I'm trying to say. And anyway, I just wanted to make honor also of Rosetta Harmon, a good friend of mine that has crossed over in the last few days. And anyway, thank you, Rosetta, for all the blessings you gave to the world. I think of Rosetta with the idea that the sons of God will come to this earth and be themselves, their purity, their holiness. She was a good example of someone who longed for that reality. And our word for peace is in the Mapudungun language of Chile, and it's Tügkülen. Tügkülen. I think that's, we'll go with that anyway. Tügkülen. Okay. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. My sacred wholeness is my salvation. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. I am blessed as a son of God. Envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. Thank you again so much for joining me. My holiness envelops everything I see. My holiness blesses the world. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. My holiness is my salvation. I am blessed as a son of God. Tügkülen. Tügkülen. Peace.